So I recently saw the discourse about man-keeping reappear on my timeline, and I realized I didn't know what it was. I thought that man-keeping referred to the phenomenon of wives who are basically the administrators of their husbands' social lives and their health, etc. They book all of their doctor's appointments. They are the reason why their husbands have any friends and any social interaction outside of the home whatsoever. I thought that's what man-keeping meant. But Vice taught me otherwise. At least the academics at Stanford have come up with the official definition.
That's where I go to for advice, to the academics at Stanford.
There are people who are paid to do this stuff. So Vice published this piece saying man-keeping is why more and more women are done with dating, managing his stress, interpreting his moods, holding his hand through feelings he won't share with anyone else, all of it unpaid, unacknowledged, and often unreciprocated. Is it any wonder women are fed up? Researchers at Stanford have finally given a name to something so many women have been dealing with for years, and it's called man-keeping.
The problem is there might have been, I mean, it still would have been a Sour Grapes article, but they might have gotten some headway there if they didn't include the unpaid part.
Yeah, why would you expect to be paid?
Unreciprocated is something you can have an actual discussion about. You can have an actual discussion about, like, you put all this time into your partner's well-being and they don't reciprocate. It should be
reciprocated.
Exactly. But unpaid just makes you sound like a fucking crazy person.
Exactly. And I remember this viral tweet from years ago where somebody had a friend reach out to them for emotional support, and they said, "Hi, I actually don't have the capacity for this right now, but I would really encourage you to reach out to other friends or resources." And then they like ghosted the person. This is how people think about relationships now.
Better to just ghost them rather than like that answer doesn't make it better.
So much worse than just not responding. So here in this article, by the way, I read this entire article. I guarantee you it was generated with ChatGPT.
Think so?
By the way it's worded. They say, man-keeping describes the emotional labor women end up doing in heterosexual relationships. It goes beyond remembering birthdays or coordinating social plans. It means being your partner's one-man support system, managing his stress and interpreting his moods. And the root of the issue is tied to what experts are calling the male loneliness epidemic. As more men report having fewer close friendships, romantic partners are expected to pick up the slack. Instead of processing with friends, many men offload everything onto the woman they're dating. She becomes his entire emotional infrastructure. And plenty of women, they say, are no longer interested in that dynamic. According to Pew Research, only 38% of single women in the U.S. say they're currently looking for a relationship. But among single men, 61% are looking for a relationship. The gap says a lot. Women aren't opting out of love. They're opting out of being someone's therapist with benefits. Well, apparently there are no benefits.
None.
The Guardian calls man-keeping a modern extension of emotional labor that turns a partner into a life coach. This isn't about, again, the ChatGPT syntax here is so on the nose. This isn't about avoiding vulnerability. It's about refusing to carry someone's emotional weight while getting little to nothing in return. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way.
This is what's happened to an extremely narcissistic society. It is your job as a human being to carry emotional weight for the person you're in a relationship with. It is also your job to make sure that it is being reciprocated. And if it doesn't, then you make the choice on whether you want to leave or not. But like, no human being should sit there and say, woe is me, there's somebody in my life I have to care about.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the article is definitely written by a woman. If it's not written by ChatGPT.
Well, Mrs. ChatGPT.
Well, they're trying to fight back against this idea that's been really popularized in media right now where, you know, men are choosing to go their own way because women don't really have anything to offer. And it was probably brought on by those like Red Pill podcasts and the Bro podcast, which, you know, I tend to agree with some stuff and disagree with some stuff from that front. But the popular narratives is like women kind of just work. They don't really serve a womanly role anymore. They're more promiscuous than ever. So men are kind of opting out and trying to go their own way, go to the gym, eat alone, and that kind of stuff. Which, to be fair, doing any of those things, like actually just being alone and focusing on yourself, I think it's really good for men because I've done it a lot. And yeah, I don't. I think that's what they're trying to fight back on. They're like, well, actually, it's women that are not interested in man babies. And I'm like, well, if those man babies disappear tomorrow, you wouldn't have internet 2 days later. So,
well, but according to the stats, it looks like more single men are interested in dating than women, unless you're to assume that the women who responded in the survey are lying about their true preferences.
Or maybe the survey is just skewed because it's the type of person who actually answers survey questions.
But also,
Maybe,
it could be like I would tend to probably agree with that stat if it's women from like 18 to 25. They would probably say they're looking for a relationship less, just because they're at that live, laugh, love FOMO time where they're wanting to go to Egypt and go everywhere and like get smashed.
There's a 20.
Not that Jon Stewart said, "Women, I want men to open up emotionally." Also, women, not like that. Yeah,
I mean,
that's why men are expressing so much confusion, because they've been encouraged their entire lives to be open and vulnerable and cry, and then when they listen to that advice, obviously it doesn't reward them.
Yeah, you can be frustrated, but you shouldn't cry.
But you shouldn't have listened to the experts in the first place, right?
There are so many like stories. I mean, countless stories of where women encourage their partner, their husband, or whatever to be vulnerable, and they finally do. And then, unironically, like a different Reddit post a year later, like the same girl's like, I no longer can look at my husband the same way, and like I no longer am attracted to him. I don't know what happened. And I'm like, look, dude. We are different species of people. Like, women and men are different. We're no better or no worse, but we deal with stress differently. Men deal with stress by not talking and putting our head down and pushing through everything. The best way out through. Women tend to just like break down emotionally, and then they go do what they need to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But women are like, well, men need to act like women. And then suddenly their dude is crying at home because his boss like gave him a really huge task in his engineering job, and he's like weeping over it. And the girl's like watching her man weep over an engineering task at his job, which is his responsibility and full accountability in the relationship. And it's gross because she's like, wait a second, if he's crying about this, I don't actually feel like he could fight somebody that would attack me on the street. He might run like a little girl. And this suddenly you lose that like he can save me, he can take care of me, he can lift me and throw me kind of mentality. And then they go to the gym and look for the guy that has a six-pack and has absolutely no social life and hates women, and they're like, this is the man I'm gonna fix.
I'm just confused because do we really have this widespread problem of men in relationships like coming home from their job and melting into a puddle of tears on the floor? Like, do we really have a problem of men behaving that way? Because I guess I just haven't experienced or seen that or heard about it from any female friends.
Well, you wouldn't be with a man like that, Mary. That's the whole point.
I'm just confused because, like, what are they talking about? Like, is this really a situation where women in relationships feel like they are therapists?
I think it's narcissism. I think that they expect the attention to be about them, and that in this case, they're saying that he's complaining and they're getting nothing in return. Now, the point I'm making there is not that they should put up with that. The point is that they should break up with him and move on.
This just sounds like a female, like, red pill perspective or female
100%.
incel perspective. It says, some men have started opening up more, which is good. It's just assumed that it's good.
It's not.
But too often, that openness lands in the lap of the person they're sleeping with instead of a friend or a therapist. Vulnerability without boundaries can feel more like a burden than a breakthrough. That is
it's
so
even worse. What they mean is like,
AI.
we want you to open up by going to a therapist so that they can heal you, so that I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's the completely hypocritical, or like the opposite from what they were saying 2 years ago. And I have you were saying, is this really a problem? No, I have a friend who's a woman. And she would shoot me a text every once in a while talking about like what's going on in life, and that's her biggest thing is her boyfriend has like a lot of anxiety, can't have a job because jobs make him like freak out and cry, can't all jobs, can't leave the house, so she pays all the bills, she does everything, and like she says that he will just he just is hyper emotional and cries all the time.
Then why
is she in that relationship?
Because he does the same thing that every man, maybe woman too, but mostly men from what I've heard, every man that's like that does the same thing when she threatens to leave for the 20th time. He's going to off himself if she leaves. It's manipulation 101.
That's horrifying.
I've heard this story so many times from like girls that I've hung out with in the past where their like husbands or boyfriends are like that kind of guy, and they're like, I really want to leave, but every time I try, he says he's going to off himself, and I'm like, well, maybe you should just leave, and if that happens, it's not your responsibility, because you're not accountable for somebody like feeling that way. Now, as far as them actually doing it, I wouldn't believe so. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but it's such an empty threat, and it's the most easily readable manipulation tactic I've ever seen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, the last part, it's so funny how like a human didn't write this. What women want isn't complicated. They want shared effort, mutual support, emotional responsibility that doesn't get passed off like a group project. Just these out-of-place similes and metaphors. When that doesn't happen, they're choosing solitude over stress, and they're not apologizing for it.
Women going their own way. Wigtown.
Some women are called bitter for stepping back from dating. Others are labeled cold. What they're really doing is protecting their capacity. The choice to stay single rarely comes from defeat. It comes from knowing exactly how much energy they have left to give. Until that imbalance shifts, more women will keep walking away. Figtow.
That is
Being
one of the
alone
most,
is easier than managing someone else's emotional life.
It is incumbent upon you, if you are in a relationship, to take their feelings and their emotions into consideration to such an extent that you should be willing to push yourself past the limits you have as a capacity to deal with someone's emotional labor, because the emotional labor is one of the the founding principles of the relationship itself. You have to be willing to take on their stress, and you need to be with somebody who is willing to take on yours in a certain way. Men and women are very different, like you were saying. Don't cry, but you're allowed to get frustrated when life gets difficult and things are hard, but to pretend they're not giving any actual solutions to the problem here. So they want you to talk about your feelings, but not so much.
The solution they
There
presented is
solution.
the extinction of the human race.
So
yeah.
Because they hate humanity and themselves.
You should be in a relationship with somebody who you think so highly of that you want to take on their emotional struggles, and you should feel as if they will take it on yours in return, while working every day to make sure that they don't have to see the worst side.
Yeah, and I think people don't know how to operate in a way that's actually accurate to what people desire. And I can only speak for myself, but what has always worked for me, people will always be like, "Hey, you need to find a solution when when your partner's having an issue emotionally. You need to find a solution, or you need to give unsolicited advice, or you need to do all these things." And I don't think that works in mass, especially if you're a man. Like responding in that way. I think the best thing that has always worked for me and helped me is being with somebody when you're in an emotional state like that can just sit with you in silence.
We were okay. So lately, I've been working even more than I usually do. I've been coming in early and I've been staying late. So I've been spending like a lot. I'm here a lot, right? And that is difficult. And when you're married and now suddenly you're at the office for 11 hours a day rather than 9 or something like that. And there are things that stress you out and it makes work difficult. But the whole point is that I can come home and I have handled it in a way where she knows that it's not easy. But the point is that I can share with her what is going on in my day without making her feel as if there is some type of danger that's coming upon her, right? And she works with me, she talks to me about all of this stuff, and that's good. But the problem is they're talking about this as if it's something where they're expecting none of it in return. The point is I will do the same for her in return. Everybody has their struggles in life, and you have to be willing to work together, especially if you're married or you're in a long-term relationship. Yep. You need to do that.
Well, speaking of women going their own way, I didn't want to miss an opportunity to bring this up on the show. There was a new poll from Pew Research of 18-year-old 12th grade high school students about their self-reported likeliness to get married sometime in the future. Just one day, would you get married in the long run? And it was pointed out there has been an over 20% drop for high school girls saying that they would choose to get married in the long run. In 1993, 83% of girls said they would choose to get married compared to 61% in 2023. But the boys have stayed relatively the same. The 18-year-old boys surveyed said 76% would get married in 1993, and it's only dropped by 2 points since then. So there's been this drastic change in the girls'
Yeah.
attitudes about marriage, but not the boys.
I can explain this immediately. Dishonest poll. So, men are going to vote in a poll however they feel. Women are going to vote in a poll about how others may feel. Women have this weird, like, strange ability, or I shouldn't say it's ability, I should say it's a curse, to think that people are watching or people are going to know what they're, like, that they said the thing. So what is popular right now for women, especially in the modern women's movement, especially on the left right now? Like, the most popular thing is to not be with men, focus on your career, and go out and be a boss. So if women are voting in a poll, and that's now the popular thing, they're going to vote in, even if they don't agree, they're going to vote in that way because
for the hive mind.
Because they think people are watching. Yeah, it's something they all have to weirdly agree with each other, and it's very strange. Whereas men will just read a poll and it's like, do you like to eat cheeks? And you're like, yeah. I don't care if my mom's watching.
That's an interesting point, though. Like, they do feel watched in a certain way, or they're trying to think of how these numbers will be published and interpreted by other people in the future, even though it's anonymous.
How will other women see this?
It's like, what message does my answer individually send to society?
Yeah.
That's probably one thing that's skewing the numbers.
Why do you think the men's numbers are identical almost, right?
Yeah, and people did point out, well, in 1993, no one thought it was some kind of crisis that 18-year-old boys were less likely than 18-year-old girls to say they want to get married, but that's not really a comparable situation because back in 1993, the difference between the girls and the boys was only 6 percentage points compared to, I believe it says like 13 here. Like, that's a drastic enough change that of course people are going to take note of it and find it worrying. But I also think maybe this isn't the black pill it seems to be on the surface because, as you said, like, they're not responding honestly.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.